Hello, everyone. Welcome to Not So Nerdy Actuary. And today I have with me a Not So Nerdy Actuary, which I know one of the not most funniest and the person with one of the best sense of humors I have met in the recent past. I have with me Bryon from today. Bryon is an actuary in the US. Hi, Bryon. Welcome to Not So Nerdy Actuary. So, can you tell us a bit about yourself?
Okay, so I'll just tell you. Currently, I work for the Standard in Portland, Oregon. Would you like to know about how I got into the actuary profession?
Yeah. I mean, what made
That
you,
type of stuff, or
yeah,
what kind
like
of
what made
yeah.
you pursue an actuarial career, basically?
So why I pursued actuary career is because when I was in high school, I would I would sit there and sleep through math class. I would wake up at the end of the math class, see a couple examples of what the teacher had done, and then I would do my homework and I explain it to the students beside me, and they would say, "Hey, you need to become a high school math teacher." So I went to college to become a high school math teacher. At that time, actual schools with actual programs were few and far between. I didn't go to one that had one, but anyway, um, along the way, I realized I remember what I was like in high school, and my friends were like in high school, and I'm like, I don't know if I want to be a teacher, but I want to do something with math. So that's when we had a past graduate that did a little seminar after school one day. It's actually Cameron Insurance out of in Cameron, Missouri, came over and he did a lesson about actuary. And I'm like, well, that looks interesting. That's somewhere where I can use my math and I'm not teaching because I only like to teach if people want to learn. And that's not necessarily what happens in high school.
Okay, that's nice. So, as an actuary, while you are pursuing your career, what are one of the major challenges which you faced while you were pursuing the career?
So this is a great question, and I'm going to actually reveal things I've told very few people. So, but I hope it will be inspirational. And that is, I am not an actuary because I am some smart genius guy. I am an actuary because I struggle. To myself, I could do it because when I was in high school, all I did was work. I worked 30 hours a week, drinking beer on the weekends, and um, and just went to school. And I did good enough to keep my mom off my back. And and there eventually came a time in college where I looked around and I said, "There's 5,000 kids on this campus. There's more than 5,000 campuses. If I'm going to stand out, I got to do something. I got to take initiative. I can't just be right." And so that's when, and along the time, that's when the actuary came along, and I decided to become an actuary. And the first exam I took, it was calculus back at that point, and I took it 4 times. Um, the third time I got the dreaded 5, but I took it. Um, and then and then I got into my job and I took the second exam and it took me 5 times. And then I got to my third exam and I got to the third time and I failed and I looked at my dad and I said, I don't know what I'm doing wrong. I have, sorry, this sounds dramatic. This is, I don't know what I'm doing wrong. There is not any more effort I can put into this. I am studying 4 hours a day every day. I don't. So, and you got to understand the part of the story. I've never asked my dad for money. And I said, Dad, wow, didn't realize I'd be this bottled up. But anyway, I said, I need to go and I need to get um, I need to go to this person I found online that does something about learning disabilities. Because if you so you can just tell me, God, what I'm doing wrong, I'll fix it. But I gotta know. And so I went to this lady in Lawrence, Kansas, and I went through a barrage of tests. Cost me $5,000, but she basically said, you have a little bit of attention deficit. And she said, you're just a slow reader. So through the Americans Disability Act, I was able to request and get time and a half on exams. And then once I did that, I had enough time. I could sit back, I could think, and I actually did. And then I was able to just take off. But it was that. So there's I know that idea where you go. No one knows it more than when everybody else passes their exam and they go to look at you and say, "Did you pass?" And all you can do is hang your head, and you just want to crawl into the fetal position. It's the most horrible feeling in the world, and I know what, whew, I know more than anyone else. But whew, did not mean to get this emotional. But if persevere, you'll actually make it. And uh, wow, tearjerker, but it's well worth it. I love the career.
It was very inspiring, and I'm sorry to take you back down all that memory lane, but I'm sure it'll inspire a lot of people. I'm very sure it'll inspire a lot of people. So, in your experience, how important do you think is having programming, or let's say Python, or in your software skill suit? How important is it for an actuary, specifically for entry level actuaries?
Oh my lord, this is a great question, but I'll give you I'm going to give you a little bit more history of my background because I want you to know how I got into programming. So when I got into programming I got a major in math, and back then they required a minor in computer science to get programming. And well, no, it didn't require minor. It required one or two classes. Said, I like this. I like the problem solving taste of this. And so I went ahead and I got a minor. But oh, was I horrible. Oh, was I horrible. Um, and um, and so then I went and I did my job. And the only time I had a valuation job, and I couldn't stand it. It was so redundant. I could not stand just putting new numbers in old formulas. And my wife says the only time you stay late is when you're behind doing a macro, learning a macro, trying to make a better macro, just trying to solve that problem. So she says, why don't you go find a job where you can do actual science and computer science? And at this time, I was struggling with exams. I'll just give you that brutal thing. And so I went to ARC. And when I went to ARC, um, they allowed me to get into programming, and I absolutely ate it up. And I really saw a niche because I said if I couldn't make it as a computer science, as an actuary, I could do this computer science and I could love it. And so I just really, really, really got into it. I love the aspect of it. So now let's fast forward. What am I doing now for the standard? So the standard is going through what they call the actual transformation. And this is really about because the premise of the problem is, a lot of people are doing manual processes and we don't have time to get to the analysis that we need because we have to feed the machine with all the old process, the corporate, what I call the machine that keeps the organization running. We spend enough time doing that. We don't have the time that we'd like for the analysis. So they hired me because I've always been on this edge between actuarial science and computer science to come help them and find better ways of automating this. How can I make my actuary peers more productive? And I'm telling you that I am having meetings with my corp and saying, look, when it comes to new people coming in the door, it's not only the actuary degree anymore. I need the programming skills. And not only that, I need the problem solving skills that come with the programming. That is fundamental. You have to understand that the actuary exams are, in some sense, teaching you the most un they are teaching you the most ridiculous unuseful skills in the world. And that is, especially the preliminary exams, where the questions are, you're like 4 decimal places of another. And if you sneeze and accidentally mess up, you're going to get it wrong. But nowhere in life and nowhere in anything you're going to do I ever want you to crank the calculation as fast as you possibly can in that manner. It's just it's not, it's just absurd. What's so what's more important is the problem solving. I need problem solving. So that's what the computer science does, because when you have a computer science class, they don't tell you what to do. They give you the widgets required to do it, and then it's your job to assemble them together. And I'm telling my management, as we go forward through this transformation, it is absolutely fundamental that you at least have you have Python or I'm fine, or C sharp, where you have a strong aptitude in that, so that you can automate our processes, because it's like we can't do Excel anymore. Um, as I was explaining to one of the high ups yesterday, is that you have to understand is that Excel is the ultimate example of trying to use the simplest tool possible to do the processes, but it is so simple that it makes those processes immensely complex with a million touch points, that the organization, especially with new regulation like IFRS 17 and LTDI, I think I always get those letters mixed up, those LTDI, that they're coming so complex that you can't afford to be on your little spreadsheet macro daisy chaining these things together to ever have any chance in doing it. You have to be able to know how to program, how to build things. Because it's not only about how to, I mean, the one thing that I'm struggling with as a culture, as an actuary, is it's how, what is the number? Everything is about what the number is. But it's so fundamentally important to understand it's how the number, because if you focus on how the number, you can officially create that number, and it gives you the time for the analysis you need. But you can only get to that efficiency and communicate with your IT partners and your other data scientists if you have that ability to program that. So I would say programming is just as important as being able to speak the English language, except you need to be able to talk to the computer.
That was very detailed and very insightful. Thank you for that. And one thing which people very much misunderstand is when someone tells them that you need to learn programming, they think about, oh, we have to do some very complex kind of coding and very complex formula we have to write, a very complex program we have to write. So let's say if someone has just starting to learn Python, what level of Python would you ask them to at least have an understanding of to start with? Would you say that if someone understands the basics of Python and some libraries, let's say basic libraries, NumPy, Pandas, Matplotlib, and Seaborn, so if someone knows these very basic libraries, then they can always pick up to the advanced algorithm. So the most important part before starting job, according to you, should, if someone knows only the very basics and only the libraries, will it equip them enough to start their career and then develop it further in the job?
Yeah, so I would say with anything, the most important thing you can ever learn from computer science is the KISS principle. Keep it simple, stupid. and so whenever you're starting out, start simple. But when I talked to you about the spreadsheet macros, the one thing that I love to automate in the spreadsheet macros is when people would stop, because people would stop because it was something they could mentally do in a couple of, let's say 30 seconds or less. There was no, you know but the other reason they stopped is because that's where the real challenge was. That 30 seconds had a lot of dynamics to it. So what I would do is I would just tear apart that problem, and I'd say, okay, can I actually build a widget that I can actually do this? So it wasn't that it served any value to what I was doing. It served the value to me as a problem. It's like, can I find this out? Can I figure it out? That's what you need with programming or anything. I just want to figure it out. Let me see if I can do it. That's the funnest thing in the world. Or when somebody says, let me show you this. And that's when it gets fun. All right, show it to me. And then what even gets funner is, hey, but if you can do that, can you do this? Maybe I can. Let me see if I can do that. And it's that constant. So start with simple. Start with stuff that interests you. Like one of the things that I like on as a passion, I'm not very good at all. I would love it to get into artificial intelligence and AI and robots and being able to self guide them. And so I get with a Raspberry Pi, or just get with whatever interests you, whatever problem interests you, and solve it, and just play with it and tinker with it. Start simple. The only thing is you just fail, and every time you fail, you put another little thing in your tool belt, and the next time you learn it, next time you learn it, and it just becomes a fun problem solving exercise.
Thank you for that. And if I ask you if there is one advice which you would like to give to your younger self, what would it be?
Oh wow, wow. That one's a hard one. I, my first gut reaction is I don't know what I would do. But my one of the things I was watching on LinkedIn the other day was talking about where you're at and the luck that you realizing that a lot of where you think you're at is you're biased towards all the hard work you did. But there's also a concept of a luck that you're not recognizing, like the luck that it just happened to be that I had an actuary exam with the 30 questions. I just happened to know to get the magic 6 so I could move on to the next one. The luck that every time they were going to change the exam on the very next time, I just happened to pass that exam right before they changed, so I didn't have to go to the brutal thing of doing two more because they changed it on me. Um, and so I would say, I really lucked. I guess I would just say, I just I don't have any advice for myself. I'm just kind of realizing how lucky I am to kind of the struggle I had to put me into the computer science to force me to do better. Because one of the things about ARC is I adopted a program that had a lot of problems. And I looked at that program and said, I don't know what right is, but I know it's not this. And so then I started studying all the computer science books. Like everybody was actuaries, but nobody was really focusing on the programming. And I was like, this is where I can stick out. And this is where I can take it to the next level. And so that's what I did, and I broke it down. So I know it's not the advice I give myself, other than thank God you did what you did to get where you're at, because you're having a lot of fun doing it.
Okay, so if you were an examiner for a day, let's say, and I ask you to change something in the examination system which is currently there, would you like to keep it same, or is there something you would change in the current examination system which is there? For example, the type of questions or the syllabus, or adding or removing something, anything which you would like to change in that.
All right. Well, you already know my bad exam history. So once I left the exams, I have nothing to do with those whatsoever. Everybody says, do you want a volunteer to grade it? I'm like, no, I've been through that experience. You'd think I'd want to initiate others. Nope, nope, nope. I do will say that I did have one of the articles I wrote in the modeling section that's on one of the current FSA exams, which I thought was kind of cool. Um, had no idea he was going to be there until one of my buddies worked on the exam and told me, "Hey, your article's there." Oh, okay, but I'm sorry. What was the question? I kind of got
Yeah.
distracted.
So if you would want to change something in the examination system, or the what
Oh,
students.
so I would have changed. I would actually change the preliminary exams, like I said. The idea that you have to um, that you have to solve these problems in 5 minutes in quick manner and be very accurate, because one, so there's a couple of reasons that I say that. For one, that's the least important skill you could ever have, right? It's important that you can solve a problem. It's not important that you can get accuracy down to 4 decimal places in 5 minutes, right? It's important that you understand the concept. So when I got the extra time on the exam, it was just that I had the time to think about the problem a little bit more so I could solve it. So I don't feel like I kind of cheated because I had more time. I just needed more time to think through the problem. And so that's what I think it needs to be. It needs to be a lot more problem solving based. I think it actually needs to be a lot more R and programming based. Um, because again, it has to focus on the problem solving. Because the one reason I don't like the preliminary exams is I kind of believe it. You know, if you ever study and you get into computer science and you think about design thinking is about bringing all these various people together from all these different backgrounds and putting together and getting all their various inputs to really create something new and innovative. And if you don't have that variety, then then you don't come up with as good of solutions. You need the crazy guy out there like, I don't know why you thought of that, but wait a minute, that's brilliant. And so the problem is with having that, you create a whole industry of very detail oriented people focused on quick accuracy. And like if you look at a personality index of what actuaries are, that's all what they are. So you're filtering out all of those people because I am not that accuracy fast guy. I said, I only got through this because I'm just stubborn. I wanted to prove to myself I could do it, but I'm this creative. I love creatives. I love big picture stuff. And I love to, I tear apart problems as we design things, like not only just about the technology, but how do people, one of the things I'm thinking about right now is how do people behave with that technology? It's not good enough to think about the widgets, but how are the people going to respond to those widgets? And as you scale this up, what happens with all the people and all the interactions that happen? Does it get the direction do you want, or does it create chaos and pandemonium? And how do you redesign your systems so you nudge people, love behavioral finance, in economics, do you nudge people in the right direction so they have a natural tendency to do what you want and behave the way you need, and trying to solve the problem that way is very fun and interesting, but you can't do that unless you look at the problem from so many dimensions.
Thank you so much, Brian. Thank you for coming here. Thank you for all these insights. I hope it will be very, very useful for the viewers. It was very, very inspiring. Thank you so much for coming here. Thank you so much.
You're well welcome. This was fun. Hope I didn't cry too much.